Will they be shown these tapes?
100%.
Will they have to watch it in court? Like during
100%.
Combs was improperly contacting and paying off a witness in the case.
They are going to be watching basically porn for hours on end in front of people.
Judge Suzan has just made a ruling on the search of Diddy's jail cell and the documents collected during it. Why are Diddy's lawyers quitting after this announcement? And are we really going to see Diddy's freak-off tapes play in open court?
But basically the idea was that this was a pretext to search Sean Combs' unit. But the idea here is there was a raid to search for contraband. This is a detention center that has been plagued with violence and drugs and weapons. Okay, so this raid, this sweep, it happens. And this investigator, Investigator 1, apparently took photos of 19 pages of Sean Combs' notes and sent them to a filter team. Now, a filter team is supposed to be an independent, third-party team not connected to the prosecutors that are involved in Combs' actual criminal case. They go through the documents and they make sure there's not anything in there that's attorney-client or work product privilege, okay? So the order continues from Judge Subramanian. In November, the government included some of what it received from the filter team in its opposition to Combs' bail application, and Combs objected, arguing that those notes contained privileged information and were obtained in violation of Combs' constitutional rights. The court held an emergency hearing at which the government indicated that it would not rely on the notes in opposing the bail application. The court ordered the case team to get rid of the notes in its possession, which it did.
In October 2024, federal and management at the Metropolitan Detention Center searched Diddy's jail cell as part of a pre-planned sweep. During the investigation, they found several documents in Diddy's jail cell that proved he had been in contact with witnesses via witness phone calls and alleged use of other inmates' calling privileges. RS claimed that this raid was a violation of the Fourth and Sixth Amendments, and the Diddy result should be thrown out in a new ruling by the judge. Judge said that the case would go to trial no matter what.
The prosecutors, they did initially want to use those notes in arguing that Combs should be denied bail. Why? Because they seem to indicate that those notes suggest Combs was improperly contacting and paying off a witness in the case. Yeah, they say this will show it. But yes, Judge Subramanian, in the end, ordered that those 19 pages be destroyed and that the government did not and could not use those notes in their argument for bail, but for Sean Combs, it didn't matter. He was denied bail nonetheless. So according to the government, a person referred to as Investigator 1 had apparently been monitoring Sean Combs' phone calls and other communications. That's one of the ways that officials learned that Combs was allegedly breaking the jail rules by reportedly doing things like using other inmates' ID numbers or initiating three-way phone calls to potentially contact somebody he wasn't supposed to. But the defense has raised alarm bells when they say that this investigator improperly took photos of privileged notes in Combs' cell and then gave that information to the prosecution, despite the fact that the defense claims the word legal was written on the notepads, meaning there's attorney-client privilege issue.
What? All records from the M-Call already proved that Diddy had been in contact with the witnesses and victims in his upcoming trial, and this finding trial is just icing on the top. Judge Aaron's ruling on top judged how the prosecutors couldn't use the documents they used but unfortunately used. Diddy prosecutors didn't need the documents.
New details this morning in the sex case against Sean Diddy Combs. Prosecutors now claiming that from behind bars, Combs has been trying to reach out to victims and possible witnesses. And ABC's Phil Lipoff is here now with this story. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Gio. Diddy's lawyers trying for a third time to get him out on bail, but this time, the prosecution telling the judge about attempts they say the rap mogul made from behind bars to influence everyone from potential jury to alleged victims.
Who's the boss? Dudes is lost. Don't think cause I'm iced out, I'ma cool off.
This morning, prosecutors leveling new accusations against Sean Diddy Combs, saying he poses a serious risk of danger, even from behind bars as he awaits trial. In a court filing late Friday, prosecutors detailing the steps they say Combs is taking while locked up to reach out to prospective witnesses and influence public opinion to affect potential jurors.
The accusations within the prosecution's motion to deny bail are very serious and will be considered very heavily by the judge, because the judge is going to want to ensure that he is not influencing witnesses and or contacting anyone to influence a trial in any way.
Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges of racketeering, transportation to engage in prostitution, and sex trafficking. He denies any wrongdoing. The government now asking a judge not to grant Combs' third request for bail, in which the music mogul offers a $50 million bail package, citing new evidence and changed circumstances.
According to our sources, Diddy is not being housed in a solitary cell. And what's more surprising, the sources say he could still get his freak on, so to speak. There is apparently a secret system that inmates on the block all seem to know about, a way to spy on the female inmates who are housed one floor below them. I thought there's no way there could be some way to contact the ladies down below, but tell me how it worked.
It's a dormitory Puff Daddy's in. He's not in cells. So there's a big dorm with a bunch of bunks, and then there's a little room where you go into, and it's like a workout area. But it's not really a yard, you would say. It's just like with gates, like you see right there in the building. And you could literally lay down, and the females are right below you, and you could just yell at them, and they yell back, and basically like you could kind of see them, and they could see you a little bit, but you have to watch out for the guards, obviously. But you can talk with them and, you know, show each other some things sometimes, which I never did any of that.
Documents. Worse for Diddy. This ruling came right after the prosecutors came after Diddy filed a superseding indictment, adding more victims to the indictment against Diddy, along with a longer time duration, essentially making it more difficult for Diddy to get out. We're going to come back to that. We's victims might be in a minute.
It means that the previous charges have been updated and the government have added new details to the case. They've expanded either the charges against someone, which isn't what happened here, or they have added new detail about the alleged crimes, which is what is happening in this particular case.
So what's new, what's different in this superseding indictment?
There are no new charges against Diddy. Like you said, he's still accused of sex trafficking, of racketeering and transportation for the purposes of prostitution. But what the prosecutors have done is expanded the case with more details. They've added 2 new female victims, and they've also said that the alleged crimes took place over a longer time frame than they'd initially said. It now runs from 2004 to 2024, whereas before it had just been a 16-year time span.
And you mentioned there about adding new victims. That's victim 2 and victim 3 referred to in this indictment. But we already had a victim. We had victim 1. They're still in it?
Yes, that's right. So victim 1 is the case that they built the federal prosecution on.
And they say about these 3 victims, Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise wielded the power of the Combs global enterprise to intimidate, threaten and lure female victims into Combs's orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force and coercion to cause victims, including but not limited to 3 female victims, 1, 2 and 3, to engage in commercial sex acts. In connection with the commercial sex acts, Combs provided the victims with, among other things, monetary payments, career opportunities and payments of rent and housing expenses.
Everyone close to Diddy is now either speaking out against him or leaving him. Anthony Rico, one of Diddy's lawyers, has just filed a motion with the judge citing his intent to withdraw, adding it had followed discussions with Combs' lead counsel Mark Agnifilo.
He's doing fine. It's a difficult circumstance. He's making the best of the situation.
A situation one of Diddy's attorneys won't be part of moving forward. Anthony Rico announcing in court docs, under no circumstances can he continue defending the embattled rapper.
This is a serious proceeding with serious consequences, and all of us are addressing it accordingly.
In a motion filed on Thursday, Rico stopped short of revealing why he's stepping down from Diddy's legal team, just months ahead of the music mogul's scheduled trial date in May for sex trafficking and racketeering charges, all of which Diddy's denied.
You know, Dr. King called it the law of unintended consequences. So sometimes the more you push a person down, the stronger they get.
That's Rico speaking up late last year for his now former client. ET's learned the attorney's exit will not affect Diddy's other attorneys, nor their defense strategy.
I told Mr. Combs I'm going to try and get his case to trial as quickly as possible. He has been ready to defend this case since he first found out about this case. Nothing has changed from his perspective.
You're going to hear about my party. They're going to be shutting them down. They're going to probably be arresting me.
After Diddy was arrested, Rico said he provided a high level of legal representation. But now, for reasons unknown, he can under no circumstances effectively serve in the upcoming trial.
Nobody's okay with staying in jail for now.
Former federal prosecutors and lawyers have all said that it's probably someone who helped Diddy run his freak-off parties, and there's a good chance it's Diddy's assistant Philip Pines. Diddy's ex-assistant just gave a statement against Diddy, and what he had to say resembled a lot of what the prosecutors have brought forward. This is direct eyewitness testimony, and Diddy is scared.
A former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs speaking out in a new interview with new allegations about wild parties and drug use. Eva Pilgrim is here with the story. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Michael. At this point, we've all probably heard about these infamous parties. Diddy's assistant now giving us details about what he says were called Wild King Nights.
It's official. I survived what I've been through.
This morning, new details allegedly inside Diddy's world before his shocking arrest. The entertainment mogul now behind bars for federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
It was a circus. He did whatever he wanted, and we were just at his disposal.
Phil Pines was Diddy's senior executive assistant from 2019 to 2021. He says his then boss asked him to purchase supplies for parties dubbed Wild King Nights.
We usually had a laundry list of items that included lights, alcohol, those requests started to become more frequent.
Pines claims many of these parties involved younger women.
A lot of times you'd have him with a younger female, and there's a power dynamic there. A more impressionable girl is easier to reel in. Consent is between the people that are engaging, and I wasn't there in these situations to understand the consent.
He says from what happened at these lavish-fueled nights called Wild King Nights. So this 32-page lawsuit, which was reviewed by multiple outlets, including Rolling Stone, was apparently filed in Los Angeles by a man named Philip Pines, who says he worked for Diddy from 2019 to 2021. So actually more recent than some other suits we've seen against Sean Combs that have been in the early 2000s or even the 90s. But according to reporting in the suit, Pines is alleging a few different things here. Now, before we even get into it, and there is a lot to get into, you might be wondering, what the heck does that name mean? What are we talking about when we said Wild King Nights? Well, part of this lawsuit alleges that Pines had to prove his loyalty to Sean Combs, who was dubbed the King, by performing sex acts for him, hence the name Wild King Nights. The suit even reportedly says that Pines was treated, quote, like an animal playing fetch in order to prove his loyalty.
Diddy is actually suing NBC for airing the documentary, saying that it's defamation.
Sean Diddy Combs sues NBC for $100 million over its Peacock documentary about him. According to docs obtained by E! News February 12th, the Bad Boy Records founder filed a lawsuit against NBC Universal, seeking $100 million after Peacock, the streaming service owned by the media company, released the documentary Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy. In the filing, Combs, who is currently in jail on sex trafficking and racketeering charges, accuses NBC Universal of defamation and alleged that the company maliciously and recklessly broadcast the documentary, which included claims that the rapper committed crimes like serial murder and sexual minors without having a shred of evidence. The filing reads, in making and broadcasting these falsehoods, among others, defendants seek only to capitalize on the public's appetite for scandal, without any regard for the truth, and at the expense of Mr. Combs' right to a fair trial. In particular, Combs alleges that the documentary, released on Peacock on January 14th,
one of the calls Diddy allegedly made while in prison has also come forward, and it is shocking. Diddy can be clearly heard asking someone on the other end to get rid of the evidence. Diddy also mentions having an ace up his sleeve.
Diddy's prison phone call just leaked and it was posted by Social Details. This is allegedly a call that he had, and there's a lot of talk, a lot of code words in there, so we're going to listen to it together. Check it out.
Do not entertain none of this nonsense and nothing over the phone. I'm going to need you to get rid of all the leftover pizza boxes. The what? All the boxes left over.
Now, this alleged leaked call from Diddy in prison was talking about getting rid of pizza boxes. Now, if you know your stuff and you're privy, you know exactly what pizza stands for, and that's probably what they're talking about and referring to on this alleged leaked call. Pizza, for those who don't know, I'm gonna make it very clean. It has to do with children and selling.
Make sure you recycle the plastic like we talked about.
Now, in this alleged phone call, he starts talking about someone named Jay. People are speculating that may be Jay-Z, but there's no confirmation. At the same time, he talks about recycling plastic. I don't know what that could mean. If you guys have any idea, comment and let me know.
Everybody out there quiet as motherfucker. Yeah, exactly. We gonna let them have their little fun, but I'm still gonna have the last laugh.
I mean, it seems by the call that he's looking for help. He's saying that a lot of people are quiet against people that are on his side, and that he's gonna have the last laugh at the end.
Man, just do what I told you to do, and don't forget about the list.
And then he goes on to say, don't forget about the list. And we don't know what that list is or what that implies, but this is pretty crazy. Do I think this is legitimate? There is no confirmation yet if this is legitimate or not, but this is the alleged leaked call of Diddy. Tell me what you guys think.
What is this? Ace. Well, according to some people, it's the connection he has to people in the federal government. Just a few weeks ago, days after the call was leaked, news came out that Diddy had been allowed to leave the MDC in the middle of the night to go for a medical checkup.
Why does he get the cover of darkness? Why does he get taken out because he needs an aspirin? Help me, Dr. Hendricks.
Well, I'll tell you, each inmate gets a physical within 14 days of their arrival at any facility. And I'm sure, based on reports of him having several knee surgeries throughout the years after being a marathoner back in 2003. So this may have been in the works in terms of getting him out for an MRI, because I know that they don't have that equipment at the institution. And I'll just tell you this, they probably had set this appointment up months, maybe weeks ago, and they set it up for the evening.
To leave at 1 a.m. in the cover of darkness. Okay, you think that's what they set up, Hendricks? Look, I know you're being loyal to MDC, but can we get real? Leaving MDC because your knee hurts?
If he was a part of that, how did he get the key to the city? That's crazy to me. If he was in incidents and everything around the city that wasn't favorable, how you get key to the city? So now you got to realize, if they had the mayor under investigation since 2014, Diddy was in investigation around 2011, 9 or 11, something like that. They say either 9 or 11. One of those people are responsible for the feds looking out after one, or either Diddy responsible, his interaction with the mayor, or the mayor interaction with Diddy may have caused the feds to be looking at both of them in some form or fashion. I don't know which one was first. Was it Diddy interaction with the mayor, or the mayor interaction with Diddy? Which one did the Fed have under surveillance first? And I think it was probably Diddy.
Diddy is best friends with Mayor Adams, and right after Diddy's arrest, Mayor Adams was also indicted over charges of corruption. Just weeks before his arrest, Diddy was given the key to the city. The mayor knew about the investigation against Diddy, so why would he still give Diddy the key? Does Diddy have dirt on him, or are they both?
Big breaking news tonight. For the first time in the history of New York City, a sitting mayor has been indicted for crimes. ABC News reporting that Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a federal grand jury. We do not know yet the exact charges. Federal authorities have been investigating Adams and members of his staff, issuing subpoenas for documents and cell phones. Several members of administration have resigned, some of them also friends of Mayor Adams. Again, Eric Adams, the 110th mayor of New York, has been indicted by a federal grand jury. We'll have the latest online and tonight on Eyewitness News at 11.
New at 5, the legal troubles continue for Sean Diddy Combs tonight after a judge ordered the music mogul to pay $100 million to a Michigan man who says that he was sexually assaulted by Combs in '97.
According to court documents, Derek Cardello Smith says Combs drugged and then
him during an after party at a Holiday Inn in Detroit. But Combs never responded to the lawsuit in court. On Monday, the judge ordered him to pay $10 million each month starting in October. The victim is currently behind bars serving a 75-year prison sentence for criminal sexual conduct and kidnapping.
The District Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York has a 97% conviction rate, and Diddy is scared. Just a few days ago, he filed to have one of the charges of prostitution dismissed. Diddy's lawyers claim that the charges against him are racially motivated.
Now, earlier in the day, prosecutors outlined some of the items seized when they raided Diddy's homes. That included AR-15 rifles, ammunition, and images and videos of sex performances Diddy allegedly organized. Let's go to Nima Rahmani, president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, former federal prosecutor, joining us tonight from Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us today. Are you surprised that he's being held without bail, and what does that tell you?
I'm not surprised he's being held without bail because these are very serious allegations, sex trafficking, some of which carry mandatory 10-year sentences in federal prison. That means the judge can't go lower than amount. And of course, we know that Diddy, at least allegedly, according to the indictment, has threatened some of these witnesses and tried to bribe them. So given the nature of the charges and the fact that there's a presumption of detention for some of them, Diddy is being treated just like any other criminal defendant, despite his fame and his wealth.
Sean Combs asked the judge in his federal case to throw out one of the charges. He says he's being targeted because he's a black man and the charge is rooted in racism. I look at Combs' argument and his chances of success. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Sean Diddy Combs wants one of the counts in his federal superseding indictment thrown out. Combs argues he's basically being singled out by federal prosecutors because of his race and his success in business. The charge he wants the judge to toss is count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution.
The cases against Diddy keep on piling, and it looks like Diddy might never get out. 40 lawsuits have been filed against Diddy since Cassie sued him. Most recently, Diddy was sued by a married woman over an alleged incident. It's important to remember that Diddy recently lost a $100 million case too.
Now, remember how I mentioned she texted her husband his address she saw from the mail in his car? Well, she told Diddy she texted her husband the address. And while she says Diddy took a beat, it was only temporarily. He then kept groping her and attempting to initiate sexual acts. She claims for 4 hours, Diddy subjected her to continuous unwanted touching and groping of her breasts in private, and even went further. Now, according to the court filing, eventually whatever she believed she ingested began to wear off. And then she regained enough strength to insist on leaving Diddy's home and demand he call her a cab. While she still felt the effects of the substance, Jane Doe says she left his home emotionally shaken and physically impaired, as well as shocked by what had happened. Now, Diddy's attorneys denied the allegation, saying no matter how many lawsuits are filed, especially by individuals who refuse to put their own names behind their claims, it won't change the fact that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted or sex trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor. We live in a world where anyone can file a lawsuit for any reason. Fortunately, a fair and impartial judicial process exists to find the truth, and Mr. Combs is confident he will prevail in court.
If all the cases weren't enough, Diddy's life is also in danger at the MDC. The management at the Metropolitan Detention Center has a history of covering up issues like stabbings, and according to former warden Cameron Lindsay, Diddy is the biggest target at the MDC as
have been described as dirty, notorious for mice, maggots, inmate violence, power outages. You spent 10 years in 11 different facilities, so you know what life is like for him right now. Take us behind the scenes.
I was also at MDC Los Angeles. It's like a cookie cutter of the MDC in New York. So yeah, I do know. But he's sitting in the shoe. He's in the hole. And this guy is going through loneliness, anxiety, desperation. He's on suicide watch, and they hand out like psych meds, like they're M&Ms to these inmates to try to get them to cope with what's going on. So his entire existence is to sit in this little cell, essentially. He can shower 3 times a week. He's not getting any real visits. If his lawyer does a legal visit, they have to come upstairs into the special housing unit to see him. Now, have you seen these reports about all these commissary items? They say that he could buy any of those?
What was one of them? Steak or something?
Ribeye, steak, all kinds of nonsense. He's in the shoe, people. He's in a special housing unit. He cannot buy things off the regular commissary list.
It is not getting good reviews. I mean, not that it should, but there should be basic human rights. And this place has faced intense scrutiny amid a spat of vicious inmates, going after each other badly, complaints about dismal living conditions, including maggot-infested food, filthy cells, power outages. Apparently they go weeks without any sort of heat, which is, not good, especially as the cold rears its head. These apparent conditions were brought to the spotlight during the trial of Maxwell. I can't say the full thing, the notorious Madame of Jeffy, when her attorney ripped the facility for the reprehensible and utterly inappropriate facilities. She complained about using the bathroom, which was an open sewer drain, rats running around, rotten maggot-infested food, freezing temperatures for roughly a week when an electrical fire caused all the light and heatings to go out in the building. Apparently, violence-plagued federal lockup made headlines when it was hit with the claims that the staff had allegedly covered up a knifing at one point.
2 more lawsuits talking about how Diddy worked with sex traffickers to source minors have also been filed, and they include detailed graphic descriptions of Diddy's crimes. One victim says that she was sex trafficked to one of Diddy's parties, where she saw Diddy and a 12-year-old Mexican child. Following Diddy, he took the child away with him.
Then last Friday evening, Tony Busby filed to dismiss this lawsuit with prejudice. Dismissing a lawsuit with prejudice means it will not, and more importantly, it means it cannot be refiled. Jay-Z said in a statement, "Today is a victory. The frivolous, fictitious, and appalling allegations have been dismissed. This civil suit was without merit and never going anywhere. The fictional tale they created was laughable, if not for the seriousness of the claims. I would not wish this experience on anyone. The trauma that my wife, my children, loved ones, and I have endured can never be dismissed. This 1-800 lawyer gets to file a suit hiding behind Jane Doe, and when they quickly realize that the money grab is going to fail, they get to walk away with no repercussions. The system has failed." Sean Combs also had something to say about Busby dismissing the suit. Today's complete dismissal without a settlement by the 1-800 attorney is yet another confirmation that these lawsuits are built on falsehoods, not facts. For months, we have seen case after case filed by individuals hiding behind anonymity, pushed forward by an attorney more focused on media headlines than legal merit. Just like this claim, the others will fall apart because there is no truth to them.
Right off the top, Busby is making sure, again, he's representing her, making sure that the court knows just how horrific these allegations are, because it reads, quote, "Defendant Sean Combs paid a number of sex workers to provide underage girls, including plaintiff, to be used for the sexual gratification of himself and his friends at a party in Miami. Defendant Combs' arranging of these girls for sex led to plaintiff suffering approximately 20 separate instances of sexual party. This case seeks compensatory and punitive damages on behalf of this young victim of sex trafficking. Compensatory damages are those that can restore a plaintiff try to do so. Punitive damages are a way to punish the defendant or defendants for really bad, egregious behavior. Now, it's interesting that an alleged sex victim is coming forward, as Combs faces himself federal sex allegations, criminal charges for allegedly forcing people to participate in sex acts with commercial sex workers for his own gratification.
The freak-off tapes Diddy filmed are going to be played in the courtroom in front of the grand jury, and the witnesses allegedly some of these tapes have already been played in court in a different case. CEO of Alter Ego Records Courtney Burgess claims that he was called to testify in one of these federal trials, and he has handed over 8 freak-off tapes to the FBI.
When the trial starts and the jury sits, will they be shown these tapes?
100%.
Will they have to watch it in court? Like during
100% in court in front of a room of people. And so that's the other thing that's awful. They are going to be watching basically porn for hours on end in front of people. So in front of victim one, whoever it may be, there's going to be porno played in the federal courtroom.
And victim one would have been made aware of this.
Oh, 100%. She's probably being told right now, like, this is going to be played in open court. Your sex history, your sex life is going to be talked about in open court. All of this.
And presumably then she knows that and she's pushing forward. because she hasn't withdrawn.
But don't forget this. It doesn't matter if she does or she doesn't. This isn't a civil case. This is the criminal case. So she could flat out tell the federal government, I don't want to participate. And they can say, we don't care. This is a crime. Crimes are against the United States, not against them. Keep calling her victim one, but don't forget, she's a witness to a crime. So it doesn't matter if she went to them in today and said, I'm not participating. Their response, we don't care. Get your ass on the stand.
Diddy's downfall just keeps getting worse, with his lawyers quitting, more witnesses coming forward, and the court refusing to throw out his case. Things aren't looking good for him, and with those infamous freak-off tapes now set to be played in court, Diddy's legal troubles might be the least of his worries. Will he manage to escape the system, or is this finally the end for him? Let me know what you think in the comments.